Republican Representative Scott Perry of Arizona got a bit of a problem going on. This week, a federal court ruled that Mr. Perry must turn over more than 1,600 text messages, emails, and other electronic forms of communication to Special Prosecutor Jack Smith. Now, recently, we did learn through a leaked court document what some of these materials that Special Prosecutor Jack Smith has been trying to get his hands on contain. They contain communications between Scott Perry and members of the Trump administration. They contain communications between Scott Perry and other lawmakers. And they contain communications between Scott Perry and state-level lawmakers. And, of course, communications between Scott Perry and Jeffrey Clark, the man that he was trying to get Donald Trump to put in charge of the DOJ as part of the election theft scheme. And now, thanks to this court ruling, all of those communications have to be handed over to Jack Smith, pending appeal. But right now, Perry's lawyers have not said whether or not he is going to appeal this ruling. Perry's cell phone was confiscated by federal authorities in August of 2022. So this battle for those messages on that phone, because Perry was instrumental. There's no denying Perry was instrumental in trying to help the Trump administration overturn the results of the 2020 election. And Perry fought tooth and nail to avoid having to turn over those communications. That fight may be over now. So what does this mean? Well, first of all, Jack Smith, as far as we know, is wanting to get his hands on these communications to show the breadth of Donald Trump's scheme. Not necessarily, again, as far as we know, to bring criminal charges against Scott Perry. But the court actually opened up the door for criminal charges to be brought. Here's what happened. In their ruling, because Scott Perry, before the ruling, Scott Perry had argued with the court saying that my communications are protected because I am a sitting lawmaker. And so, yeah, I'm reaching out to people. I'm talking to the Trump people. I'm talking to the state people because, hey, it's my job and it's protected by the speech or debate clause. I'm allowed to do these things because I have to vote to certify the Electoral College votes and, kind of need all the info. Not a bad argument, legally speaking. It's not true at all. That's not why he was doing it. But legally speaking, it's a solid argument. But even that court was like, no, what you were doing was actually outside of the scope of your job. The things you were doing were not related in any way to that vote. It wasn't related to other legislation either. You were doing this on your own outside the scope of your job, and therefore you are not protected by the speech or debate clause. So if he appeals this and sends it to the U.S. Supreme Court, the Supreme Court will be the ones to determine whether or not the speech or debate clause applies here. If they say no, it does not, then Perry is 100%, depending on what's in those messages, opened up for possible criminal prosecution or indictments if Smith wants to go that route. So it'll remain to be seen, but right now things are not looking good for Scott Perry, and hopefully they get worse for him from here. Because if you're as involved as everything suggests that you were, you need to be held accountable, just like Donald Trump. Ring of Fire has fresh content 7 days a week, so if you want to be reminded about it, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit the little bell to be notified every time a new video goes up.